This is the second in a series of tutorials looking at the gesture system in the Space Virtual World platform. And this tutorial looks at how to add cameras, animated cameras, to your animations so that you can create essentially a little show inside the virtual world for you or anyone who you give or sell the gesture to. So in the first tutorial we created a single person gesture, Barracuda, it was a little dance. But what I've done is I've now in the project file I've duplicated that original virtual good object and with each one I've added one of two different camera systems. The first of those is called the Avatar Effect Camera Script, and it allows you to create a camera path by determining the start and end position of the camera in relation to the avatar or indeed a particular bone on the avatar. So I'm going to show you a very, very basic example of that, where I'm putting 1 in the Y settings. What we're saying here then is that the position of the camera, well, let me press play and show you. Y in Unity is up, down, so we're a meter off the ground at the start and the end, so there's no movement. And Z positive is forward, so we're 2 meters in front of the avatar, and we've rotated the camera 180 degrees so that it's facing the model. So if I look in the scene view here and I highlight the camera there, you can see the camera is looking at the model and it's 2 meters in front and a meter off the ground. I can put it on a simple animation path, so I can say a start position on X of -1.5 and an end position of +1.5. And now if I press play, it'll pan slowly across the screen. Incidentally, my animation here is 24 seconds long, and so I have set in the script here that the duration is 24 seconds. So they match each other, and you can see a very slow pan taking place there across the duration of the take. Now, what you can also do is track individual parts. So let's just knock a little bit of this out to keep it simple. So I'm just leaving the camera in front, but I'm starting on the ground. I'm going to track the Y position, which is up, down, and I'm going to start on one of the feet, the right foot, and I'm going to end on the head. And now when I press play, I'm going to get a slow tracking shot, moving up the model. In fact, if I just, I think that'll look a little more dramatic if I zoom in a little bit. So if I set this to 1 on Z, now you can see, the basic principles of cinematography, the reveal, in this case, a man in his pants. So a fair range of potential that you can explore with these tools for creating animated paths in Unity on your gesture. I'll show you one other thing, the tracking freedom. If I switch all of these on and I return to the hips, and leaving the tracking freedom at 1, which is 100%, you'll see now the camera's movement is being driven by the movement of the hips, and it's also mirroring that, in fact, because I've rotated it in the offset. Kind of unwatchable, not terribly useful, but if I take the tracking freedom down to 0.1, I'm effectively damping down that movement by 90%. And now you can see, if you look at the periphery with the movement in the background, you can see it's almost like a handycam effect coming in. So we've got a little bit of natural movement. It isn't obviously coming from the avatar, but if you want that kind of effect, it's easy enough to achieve. No doubt, if you play with these tools, there are lots of other effects that you can get as well. Having applied that component, I can then come into the virtual good script and resubmit it. Incidentally, if you copy and paste virtual good that you've already submitted with the virtual good script on it, do clear the ID before you then resubmit it, so that you don't write over your original work. Change the name and clear the ID. Incidentally, what you've got here with the tracking targets, obviously with a single person gesture, it's always the initiator. But when you are doing two-person gestures, if you use this avatar effect camera script, you can begin on the face, say, of player one, and then end on the face of player two. So there's some additional options there that will come into play when you're doing multi-person gestures. So now what I'm going to look at is the second type of camera, which is path-based. I've got the same virtual good script, the same animation, but I've got a different camera component, the avatar effect camera movement script, and this allows me to import and apply a keyframed animation for the camera that I have created timed to go with this gesture. What we haven't done is enabled the ability to apply animations that you keyframe inside Unity. It would be easy enough for us to do that. You can keyframe the camera, but you can't. Trying to time that with a motion captured animation is extremely difficult. There's no unified scrubbing back and forward along a timeline of motion captured animation in a FBX take and the camera animation tool in Unity. So you can't see them together. You can't, it's almost impossible to do. It's not really what Unity is for. So instead we go to the kind of application that is designed for that. I happen to do my animating in Motion Builder, but any other tool, Maya, Max, Poser, Blender, will allow you to scrub on a unified timeline as well. Here you can see I've got the same original animation. This is where I took it off the C3D data and plotted it to the model. You can see there was a cut there, another cut there, rather weird sort of third man angle there, and an odd pan just to illustrate how it works. And you can see if I highlight the keyframes, this is where I've hand keyed the camera on those different cuts. And you can see this is everything in my file: the mocap data, the character, the skeleton, and then this is the camera and the camera interest, the camera and the thing that it's focal point. I've keyframed their movement over the course of this 24-second animation. You can see most of them are a hard jump from one position to another, and then there's this eerie pan here, but set to a very specific time. This is what you can't do in Unity, that exactly as he looks away, I change the camera position. So I export this and then apply it to the camera in Unity. When I export it, if you happen to be using Motion Builder, I highlight just the camera and the camera interest and then save selection, rather different to exporting the character animation. Two notes on the export process: regardless of what animation tool you're using, to create a generic FBX file with two generic animated objects in them that happen to be the camera and the camera interest. Please ensure you do have a keyframe at the start and end of your tracks. Sometimes you might leave that off, or if you're baking from a layer, the bake process might take them off to be efficient with the use of keyframes, but we do need to have a keyframe at start and end. So please keyframe there. And secondly, rather oddly, and this is a bit of a hack, there's not much we can do here, but Unity isn't treating this as a special animation type called camera animation. It's just importing it as a generic animated object. And what that means is that there's no explicit field for the field of view. But the field of view, if I just add a keyframe here, you can see it's a very important a bit of information. Obviously that shot is completely different if I take it down to 0. So you need to have your field of view information, even though mine is fixed for the duration of the animation at about 53. We want that information coming through. It's not, Unity's not going to grab it from the field of view track here. Our hack is you copy that and you paste it into, I've done it already, the scaling X track on the camera. Because of course your camera doesn't scale. You're not making your camera bigger or smaller, so it's a dead track that you can paste the data into, and that's where we'll pick it up. So even though there's no change in this information here, there's a particular state, 53.2 or whatever it is, and by pasting it in here, now there's a track that we can grab it from in Unity and apply it. So now, if I go into Explorer, you can see this is the FBX file I've exported with just the animation file. You can see the only things in this file are the two objects, and if I scrub through, you can just see those jumps there. That's what I'm now going to bring into the scene here. And you may recall in the first tutorial when we imported the character animation, there were some particular settings. We had to set it as humanoid and define the skeleton. Here, with the camera, we set it to legacy, and it'll default to store generation information in the root. That's fine, just leave that. So those are the settings you need when you bring this object in. And now when I come to the component on the virtual good, again a slight difference. You may remember when we dragged the character animation into the avatar animation effects script, it was the track, the take from within the FBX file that we dragged into that slot. With the avatar effect camera movement script, the legacy animation clip slot here, I'm going to drag the parent FBX file. You actually won't be able to get it wrong. It won't let you drag the track in there. Similarly, if I try and drag the parent FBX file into the clip field on the character animation, it won't let you do the wrong thing. But if you find yourself getting a pushback like that, remember one is one is the other. The child name and focus name are the name of the camera and camera interest. Hopefully you don't need to use the tweak axis. I don't in this case, because my export from Motion Builder, happily enough, Unity and Motion Builder play nicely in terms of orientation, so both of them treat Y positive as up and Z positive as forward. But if the tool you're exporting from orientates differently, you can click tweak axis and then sort of reverse that offset and get the orientation correct. You've got some actual offsetting tools here as well if you want to, although if you're animating with the character animation visible in your animation tool, you shouldn't need really any of that, because they should be, I would assume you would align them in your animating tool. So now we've got them rigged up to play together, and if I press play, you'll see there's the first cut, and there's that slightly odd angular pan coming round. I just capture the face before I then cut away to this shot. So now we've seen two different camera components that allow us to apply precise animated camera data to go with your gesture, and you can use those as saleable items, or you may use them as cutscenes with non-player characters in our quest system. You can use them for machinima. In the next tutorial we'll look at two-person gestures, and we'll also look at how to add props and particle effects and timed audio and things like that. When you've got all of those things, multiple user animations, NPCs, so on and so forth, then really you've got an array of tools that allow you to build whole sort of productions that you or any other user can launch into anywhere in world as a synchronized show for all who are witnessing it. So here I am in world, and you can see that the first one I'm going to click on here is the camera path. I did that very, very simple Z2 positive, 2 meters in front of the avatar, rotated 180, and Y positive 1, just gives me a fixed position on the avatar. A very, very simple, straightforward view. And now if I choose the other one, it's the camera character, sorry, the camera path animation. Here you can see the same keyframed animation that we saw in Motion Builder and then in Unity playing on the character in World.